Hello, I'm Cosmic, and today I'm going to be talking about my first impressions of Carbine Studios' new MMO, Wildstar. So I finally got round to playing one of the beta weekends, and I had a play around on both the Exile faction and the Dominion faction. I had a little play around with different races, different classes, and the different professions. So I just want to spend a little bit of time. It's not going to be too long of a video, just talking about my first impressions of the game. So first off, let's talk about the setting. So the setting of Wildstar is on the planet Nexus, which is a mysterious planet that has been forgotten for a long time. Now, I really like the whole setting of Wildstar. I like that it's sci-fi, I like that it's very futuristic, there's plenty of different races, there's lots of lore. I really enjoy the setting, and I think it's one of the biggest draws of the game, especially since we've got so many generic fantasy MMOs out there that have become very bland. Wildstar is a nice change of pace, it's a nice change of setting, and it's definitely one of the more better things about the game. Along with the setting is the art and graphic design, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I love the cartoonesque style that they've gone for. I think it lends itself very well to the genre and to the specific sci-fi setting. It makes it more colourful, it's very vibrant. I'm not keen on the world design thus far. I do like some elements of it. I like that there's lots to explore, lots to find, but I think that some areas are too colourful and too vibrant, almost to the point of there's so much going on. You never know where to look. It leads your eyes off in all sorts of directions, and it's really hard to focus on certain things. I think that some places and some set places, especially on the starting areas, are so noisy you just don't know what to look at. And I think that could have been done better with better level design. And I'm all for having NPCs in the world, but it's just to the point where there's so many NPCs in some areas. What are they there for? They're not there for any reason, so why have that many there? Because it just makes it look just too noisy, and there's just too much to look at in one area. But let's talk about the core of the game, which is its gameplay. Now let's start with combat. So combat is, I really like combat. Combat feels like World of Warcraft 2.0. It feels like it's took what's good about World of Warcraft and it is somewhat traditional, it's not very innovative, but at the same time it's accessible, it's easy to use, and it's took what World of Warcraft does well and added in elements from places like Elder Scrolls Online, places like Guild Wars 2, and introduced movement into the combat, which feels a lot more fluid. Combat's a lot more fast-paced. You have to think about what you're doing with enemies, where you're facing, where they're facing, and you have to adapt, and I like that. As I say, it's not particularly innovative in any aspect, but what it does, it combines what MMOs do already, and it does it very well, and I really like that. At the end of the day, if you're not going to do something innovative, do something well, and I think that they have done it well. Combat feels fluid, it's nicely polished, there's a lot of abilities for different classes. I particularly played both soldier, because in traditional MMOs I've always played warriors, specifically either damage warriors or tanks, and I actually enjoyed the stalker class out of every class that I played, which is the more stealth damage dealer character, and I actually found that was more fast paced than the warrior, and I enjoyed that so much more in Wildstar, which is unusual for me, and it's something that I particularly enjoyed, just as a different break from what I'm used to, because in other games DPS, although I do enjoy DPS, I particularly didn't like roguish characters in fantasy MMOs and things like that, whereas in Wildstar I found it to be quite enjoyable, more so than the warrior, which was unusual, but again I really liked it. So let's move on to questing. Now questing, from what I've played so far, is a bit of a disappointment to me personally, simply because it is exactly like World of Warcraft and every other MMO out there. It is the simple go to the quest giver, get a quest, do the quest, come back, hand in, move on. And it's boring, and questing in MMOs in general nowadays has become very dull, very boring, very contrived, and I don't think it's a very good thing. And I understand why they've done it this way, because they've gone for a more traditional MMO in the way that the game is designed. But that being said, I think that Wildstar aside for a second, MMOs in general need to start being innovative with their quests and coming up a new way for players to experience content, because Questing in MMOs now is more of a grind than an enjoyable experience, and while I did enjoy the story elements of Wildstar's questing, the actual quests themselves, though it had a nice sci-fi spin on things, it was nothing new, and it was a bit of a disappointment really. And I think that in terms of Wildstar, the end game content is going to be most important for me going forward if I was to go and play the game, rather than the leveling up questing, because there's nothing new there. The end game content must have to be really good for me to stick around. I also, during the beta weekend, had to play around with some of the professions. I played scientist on one of my Dominion characters, and I played soldier on my warrior exile character. I enjoyed the warrior character. For the soldier element, I think it lends itself well, and it's nothing particularly exciting in the fact that all the soldier does is go to various missions that as you explore the zones, you get holdout missions like hold this point for 3 minutes while you get waves of enemies attacking you. I particularly enjoyed the scientist more, simply because it was about going out, exploring, scanning things, finding out bits of information, and for me personally that was a more enjoyable experience and a more interesting experience. And I've not played the settler or the explorer, but I can see particularly the explorer being somewhat fun, having to go out and explore things and find new stuff. I think that would be particularly enjoyable for certain people, but for me the scientist was really good. Again, it did get a bit repetitive in the way that, yes, you are simply going out and scanning different stuff, but you're still scanning, so it's the same thing over and over. But it was the elements of I'm learning bits of information about the world while doing this, and new things while doing this, rather than the soldier, which was just fight enemies, fight enemies, fight enemies, which just got really boring really quickly. But overall, I like what they've done with the professions. I think I would like to definitely see it come more towards the end game and how they develop and interact with the rest of the game. But as I say, it's only a first impression, so we will see what happens come launch. So I mean, overall, I've really enjoyed the beta weekend. I've enjoyed my experience, more so than actually I enjoyed Elder Scrolls Online, which was actually surprising. I thought I would enjoy Elder Scrolls Online more, but I didn't. And I thought that what Wildstar does, it does relatively well. There were disappointments. It was beta, there are bugs. One particular bug that really does need fixed is the problems with the UI and the HUD design, because I was having really bad bugs with that, especially with the questing, where I wouldn't be able to read what characters were saying or select options because it just wouldn't appear. So there are some bugs in the game that really do need ironed out, and hopefully they will be come launch. I know that people are complaining left, right and centre about optimization in the game, that they're really having problems with frame rates and things like that. I never had a problem with FPS at all during the entire weekend, but I know that there are people, and there's a lot of people who are having serious issues, going as low as 10 frames per second, which is just ridiculous. So hopefully in the next month or so before launch, which they have just about got a month from now, they actually do a lot of optimization on the game as it currently is, fix bugs, issues like that, and try and make it the best, smoothest launch possible. I really like that Carbine Studios have, I think it's something like a year's worth of endgame content already made for post-launch, which is fantastic. It means that players aren't going to have to wait forever and ever for an update. So it's overall, I think that there's good and bad things to Wildstar. I like where it's coming from in terms of its setting and story. I think that it is somewhat of a traditional MMO in the general sense, so that if you are looking for something more innovative, you're not going to get it. But if you enjoy things like World of Warcraft, like Star Wars The Old Republic, like Guild Wars 2, then you probably are going to enjoy Wildstar. It is fun to play. It's not boring. It's definitely fun. The questing, as I say, you probably won't find anything that's actually new in terms of questing. but overall it definitely left me wanting to play more. And I think that's the most important thing about an MMO. It's supposed to draw you in to play more. So I'm definitely excited for launch. I'm definitely excited to see the gameplay elements that I haven't seen yet. Things like endgame, PvP, etc, etc. All the things that I didn't get to experience in my short time over the beta weekend. And it's definitely something that I will be looking into come launch. But whether the game makes me stick around or not when I hit that level cap remains to be seen. But that's my first impressions of Wildstar, so thank you so much for watching. Do like, subscribe and leave a comment, and I will see you next time.